The sky above the red planet shimmered with glowing ships, floating markets, and endless noise. The floating city of Navora was filled with strange life, tall aliens with crystal eyes, metal-skinned traders and glowing jelly creatures that spoke through light. Everyone was busy buying, selling, or arguing. No one noticed the small shape sitting quietly near a broken stall. It was an old dragon, tiny compared to the giant beasts told in stories. His wings were thin and torn, his scales dull like dusty stones. His eyes, once golden, now looked tired and gray. He sat on a pile of scrap metal watching everyone pass by, hoping someone would stop, but they never did. The aliens called him Tiny Ember, a name filled with mockery. Children laughed, throwing crumbs of dried fruit at him. Traders waved their hands, telling him to move away from their stalls. Even the cleaning drones beeped angrily when he came too close. Once long ago, dragons like him were feared. They flew through space beside human fleets, breathing fire into darkness, but those days were long gone. Humans had vanished from most corners of the galaxy, and the old stories became myths now. The old dragon was nothing but a relic, a forgotten thing. He sat near the smoke vents of the lower market because it was warm. Every day he would close his eyes and remember the stars he used to fly through. He could still feel the wind, the hum of energy beneath his wings, and the sound of human voices calling his name. But memory was cruel. It gave warmth for a moment and then left cold behind. Sometimes he whispered to himself, Ignis Prime, the name that no one remembered anymore, the name once spoken with pride. Then one day something changed. A new ship landed in the city, small and old, painted with faded blue letters that said, Earth Trade Works. A human stepped out carrying a simple case filled with tools. He was not a soldier, not a trader, just a barber named Eli Ward. Humans were rare now, but still respected. The aliens liked human crafts, songs, and haircuts. Humans had a gift for care and beauty. Eli came to open a barbershop in the lower levels. He wanted peace, a quiet life far from war. He set up his small stall not far from the dragon's corner. And that's when he saw him. At first, he thought it was a statue. The dragon was so still, covered in dust. But then the eyes opened, slow and sad, and Eli froze. He had seen many creatures, but never a dragon, not a real one. Not since childhood stories. He walked closer, slowly, like approaching a lost animal. Hey there, he said softly. You all right? The dragon blinked, his voice a low whisper, rough from years of silence. Do I look all right, human? Eli gave a small smile. You look tired. Tired is better than forgotten, the dragon murmured, turning his head away. Eli wanted to help. Maybe bring food, maybe talk more, but something caught his eye. Around the dragon's neck was a metal collar, old, covered with rust, yet it had strange glowing letters carved into it. The letters flickered weakly. Like they wanted to speak, Eli leaned closer. Brushing off the dust with his fingers, the dragon moved slightly but didn't stop him. The letters were written in ancient human script, a code Eli had seen only once before, in a museum back on Earth. His eyes widened as he read the faint words. Do not awaken the first fire. The moment he read it aloud, something strange happened. The air around him grew cold. The lights in nearby stalls flickered, and a soft hum vibrated through the ground. The dragon looked up sharply, his eyes glowing faint blue. You read it, he said quietly. Almost in fear, Eli stepped back, his heart racing. What does it mean? The dragon's wings trembled. He turned away and whispered, It means you should leave. But Eli couldn't. He felt something deep inside him, an old human instinct. A spark of curiosity and fear mixed together. The words first fire echoed in his mind. He had read about it in forbidden files during his time in the human colonies. It was said to be an ancient project, something humans built before the Great Silence, something they swore never to use again. He stared at the small dragon and whispered, Who are you? The dragon's eyes dimmed. No one, he said softly. No one worth remembering. The noise of the market returned slowly, but Eli's ears still rang with that strange hum. He looked around, wondering if anyone else had noticed. But everyone was busy again, laughing, shouting, and walking as if nothing had happened. The dragon closed his eyes. As if he wished to disappear, Eli wanted to ask more, but he sensed that pressing too hard could be dangerous that night. When the market grew quiet and the stars appeared between the clouds of red dust, Eli stayed awake in his tiny room above his shop. He could not stop thinking about that message, about the dragon's eyes, and about the way the air had changed when he spoke those words. He took out his old handheld device and searched his files. There it was, a note from the lost archives of Earth, a rumor whispered in human colonies. Project Ember, the creation of the first fire. Living weapons made to protect humankind during the first interstellar war. Eli froze. Could it be possible? Was the old dragon one of them? Down below in the quiet corner of the lower market, the dragon opened his eyes again. He looked toward the window where a faint human shadow moved behind the glass. He whispered to the darkness, "You shouldn't have read it. Human." The collar glowed once more, weak but alive. A soft pulse spread through the air, reaching far beyond the city, into the cold silence of space. And somewhere in a forgotten system, old machines began to stir. Blinking after hundreds of years of sleep, the first fire had been spoken again, and nothing would ever be the same. The morning sun on the red planet rose slow and heavy, spilling orange light across the floating city of Navora. Airships drifted through mist, carrying traders and travelers. The marketplace buzzed with energy again, but Eli Ward felt none of it. He sat in his small barbershop, staring at his reflection in the mirror. He couldn't forget the night before. The words glowed in his mind like fire. "Do not awaken the first fire." He had spoken them once, and the air itself had changed. The dragon's eyes, the sound, the pulse, everything felt too real, too dangerous. Eli ran his hand through his hair and whispered, "What did I do?" His reflection did not answer. Only the quiet hum of the mirror lights filled the room. He had opened his shop only 2 days ago, and now he was tangled in something ancient, something beyond reason. He tried to focus on his work. A tall alien customer sat in the chair, chatting cheerfully about trade routes and spice prices. Eli smiled, trimmed, and nodded, but his mind stayed far away. The moment the alien left, Eli locked the door and turned off the lights. He needed to find out who that dragon really was. He took out his old datapad, connected it to the local grid, and searched. Ignis Prime, First Fire, Project Ember. The results were empty. Blocked by red warnings, access forbidden by the Galactic Council. Eli leaned back, exhaling. "So it's true," he murmured. They erased it. Still curiosity burned inside him. Humans had always been good at hiding secrets, and barbers were good at listening quietly while others talked. He remembered how the dragon's scales shimmered faintly when he read the words, how his voice cracked when he said, "You should not have read it." Eli decided to go back, not as a barber this time, but as a seeker of truth. That night, the market was quieter, the bright stalls were closed, and the air smelled of oil and metal dust. He walked through the shadows, his coat pulled close. His boots echoed softly on the steel floor. The dragon was still there, sitting near his broken stall, half asleep. The soft glow of his collar painted faint circles of light on the ground. Eli stopped a few steps away. "I came back," he said gently. The dragon didn't open his eyes. "I knew you would." Eli waited, the silence between them growing heavy. Then he asked, "Who are you really?" The dragon sighed. "Once, I was Ignis Prime, protector of humankind, first of the Fireborn, last of the Ember line." His voice was soft but deep. Carrying sadness and strength, Eli knelt down, feeling small before the creature, the Fireborn. "They were real?" "They were real," Ignis said. "But the galaxy could not bear their fire," Eli frowned. "What does that mean?" The dragon's eyes opened, glowing faint blue. "Your kind built us in the time of war, when the dark species came from the void between stars. We were made to burn them away, to guard human worlds. But after the war ended, the galaxy feared us more than the enemy. The aliens demanded our destruction, the humans obeyed. Thinking peace had come, his wings twitched weakly. They took away our names, sealed our memory, and left us in cages like forgotten tools." Eli's heart ached. He imagined it. Creatures made to protect, thrown aside when no longer needed. "Then how are you still alive?" he asked. Ignis turned his gaze toward the sky. "Because fire never truly dies, it only hides." Waiting for breath. The words sent chills down Eli's spine. He looked at the collar again. "And this, what does it do?" Ignis lowered his head, the light of the collar dimming. "It holds me, binds the fire inside, it keeps the ember asleep." Eli touched the metal, feeling a faint pulse like a heartbeat. "Who made it?" The dragon's eyes narrowed. Humans did, he whispered. Your ancestors feared what they created, so they locked us with chains of our own language. Only a human voice could awaken us again. Eli froze, realizing the truth. That means, when I read the words, you broke the silence, Ignis said. The code has heard you, the old systems have heard you. The air around them grew colder. Eli felt static crackle against his skin. Somewhere far away, a faint sound echoed, like an old machine turning on. What's happening? He whispered. The world remembers, Ignis said softly. The first fire calls to the stars once more. Eli stood in shock, unsure if this was wonder or doom. He looked at the dragon, small and broken, yet filled with hidden power. I didn't mean to, he said, his voice shaking. I just wanted to understand. Ignis smiled faintly, his cracked teeth glowing like coals. Understanding is the first step to awakening. He slowly stretched his wings, a few sparks falling to the ground. The sight was both beautiful and frightening. I can feel them, Ignis whispered. The others are gone, but they're echoes. They move, Eli's pulse quickened. Others? You mean more dragons? Not dragons, Ignis said, not anymore. What you awoke might not be what you expect. The words filled Eli with dread. He looked around, half expecting something to appear from the shadows. Ignis lowered his head again, his energy fading. You should leave this place, human. The council will feel the disturbance soon. They will come for me and for you, Eli hesitated. Then come with me, the dragon laughed softly. A dragon walking beside a barber? You would not get far. I can hide you, Eli said quickly. My shop has mirrors, light cloaks. I can protect you until we know what's going on. Ignis studied him with old, tired eyes. You would protect a creature the galaxy hates? Eli nodded. You protected humans once? It's my turn now. For the first time in centuries, Ignis smiled. A real, gentle smile. Very well, Barber of Earth. I will trust you. Eli reached out a hand, his fingers trembling. The dragon lowered his head, allowing Eli to touch the cold metal collar. The faint hum became warmer, and a small pulse of blue light ran through the air. As they walked through the quiet streets, the city lights flickered again. Far above, old satellites blinked awake. Their long-dead sensors caught a signal they hadn't heard in ages. Code recognized. Project Ember active. Eli didn't see the message, but Ignis did. He looked up at the red sky and whispered, The fire remembers. And somewhere beyond the stars, deep in forgotten ruins, machines built by ancient humans stirred once more, waiting for the voice that had dared to speak the forbidden words again. The night in Nivora burned with lights and smoke, but inside the small barber shop on the lower level, everything was silent. Eli Ward had closed the shutters, locked the doors, and dimmed the glow lamps. He sat beside the small dragon, watching the faint blue shimmer that pulsed from the collar. Ignis Prime lay on a blanket, wings folded tight, breathing slow. His body trembled from exhaustion every few moments. Tiny sparks flickered from the cracks in his scales. Like fading embers trying to remember how to burn again, Eli leaned closer. Does it hurt? He asked softly. The dragon gave a low hum. It always has, Eli nodded, his mind still racing. He had seen impossible things in the past 2 nights. Fire that sang, light that spoke, and a creature that carried the oldest secret of humanity. But what scared him most was the truth that followed him like a shadow. The words he read had started something he could no longer stop. He turned on his datapad again, trying to access the locked files. Each time he tried, the screen flashed red. Access restricted, Ember classification level Omega. Eli sighed, rubbing his face. Who would have thought a barber could cause a galactic problem? Ignis lifted his head slightly, his voice slow and heavy. You carry curiosity. That is more dangerous than any weapon. Eli gave a tired smile. Maybe, but curiosity made humans explore the stars. You were part of that, weren't you? Ignis was silent for a moment. His eyes reflected the soft light of the mirror nearby, and then he began to speak. I remember the beginning, he said quietly. The world of fire and light. The humans called it the Forge. A hidden moon where they built life from metal and will. I was born there, not hatched, but built. My blood was plasma, my bones made from starstone, and my heart. He paused, tapping the collar lightly with a claw. It beats with human code. Eli listened, his chest tight with wonder. You remember it all? I try to, Ignis whispered. The memories come like smoke, soft and broken. I remember humans in white suits, faces behind glass. They laughed when I flew for the first time. They called me their miracle, their protector. He closed his eyes, a small smile crossing his old face. They said dragons were symbols of strength, so they made one real. They believed I would bring hope, not fear. Eli sat quietly, his fingers trembling. He could almost see it, the shining laboratories, the humans standing proudly beside their creation, the fire lighting up the dark sky. But something happened, didn't it? Eli asked softly. Ignis nodded. The war. His voice turned sharp, a low growl trembling beneath each word. The void spawn came from beyond the edge of known space. Creatures of shadow and hunger. They devoured planets, drained suns. We fought them beside human fleets. We burned the darkness away, Eli swallowed. And you won? We thought we did, Ignis said. But victory has a price. The humans saw what we could do. Whole worlds turned to ash under our fire. They feared what they created. The aliens called us monsters, the humans agreed. They said the Ember Line must be sealed, that dragons must sleep forever. His wings twitched, a bitter laugh escaping him. So they built the collars, each one locked with the words of their own language. They promised to set us free one day when the stars were safe. Eli looked down, guilt washing over him, even though it wasn't his fault. And they never came back, he whispered. No, Ignis said. They forgot. As they always do. The silence that followed felt heavy. The air inside the shop shimmered faintly with the dragon's warmth. Eli stood and looked out through a crack in the shutter. The city was restless tonight. Drones moved faster. Guards filled the streets. There were whispers about an energy spike detected in the lower levels. They're searching for you, Eli said. The council must have felt that signal. Ignis nodded slowly. They fear what they don't understand. Eli turned toward him. Then we need to leave before they find us. The dragon tilted his head, his cracked wings twitching. Leave? To where? To the archives, Eli said quickly. There's an old human station on the dead moon of Varos. I've read about it. It might still hold records about Project Ember. We can find the truth there. Maybe even find a way to remove your collar. Ignis studied him with ancient eyes. You would risk your life for a creature the galaxy wants erased? Eli smiled faintly. You fought to save humans once. It's time someone returned the favor. For a moment, Ignis said nothing, then his voice softened. You remind me of my first keeper. She too believed in kindness. Even when the stars burned, Eli packed his tools quickly. Datapad, cloaking gel, food packs. A plasma cutter, he looked at Ignis. Can you walk? The dragon stood slowly, his legs shaky but strong enough. Sparks trailed behind his claws as they scraped the metal floor. I can move, not fly, he said. Eli nodded. Then we moved quietly. They left through the service tunnels, dark and filled with the hum of old pipes. The smell of oil and rust filled the air. Ignis moved silently despite his size, his wings folded close. His faint blue glow lit the path ahead like ghost fire as they walked. Eli noticed markings on the tunnel walls. Ancient human symbols burned into the metal. He stopped to trace one. This is old Earth code, he whispered. It's like someone built this place long before the council took over. Ignis looked at the symbols and murmured, Humans leave their marks everywhere, even when they wish to forget. Suddenly, a deep vibration shook the tunnel. Distant alarms echoed through the metal walls. They've found us, Eli said, his heart pounding from behind. The sound of mechanical footsteps grew louder. Council drones, armed and scanning. Ignis turned, his eyes burning faint orange for the first time. Run, he said. Eli grabbed his pack and sprinted ahead. The tunnel filled with blinding light as energy blast hit the walls. Sparks rained down, Ignis roared. A sound that shook the air for a moment. His collar flared bright blue, and streams of plasma fire burst from his mouth. Cutting through the darkness, the drones melted into glowing metal. The tunnel shook violently. Eli turned, staring in shock. You said you couldn't? I said I shouldn't, Ignis growled, his wings glowing faintly. But fire always answers when danger calls. Eli reached for him. Then let's go before more come. Together, they disappeared deeper into the tunnels, heading toward the launch docks below the city. Above them, the council alarms blared across the sky. warning all citizens of unauthorized human technology reactivation. But far beyond the planet, in the black silence between stars, old human satellites began to move. One message pulsed across the network in quiet blue light. Ignis Prime detected. Project Ember status. Reignition, Phase 1. The fire that was meant to sleep forever had begun to remember its purpose, and the galaxy was about to remember its fear. The city of Nivora no longer slept. Sirens echoed through its floating towers. Red lights flashed across the metallic clouds, and the air was thick with panic. The Galactic Council had issued a full alert. Unregistered human technology activated in Sector 9. The message repeated through every speaker. But in the dark tunnels below the city, far from the noise and the light, Eli Ward and Ignis Prime were already moving. The path trembled under their steps. Eli's breathing was fast, his heart pounding like a hammer. He carried his small pack tight against his chest. Inside it was his datapad, still glowing faint blue from the signals it couldn't understand. Ignis walked beside him, slow and careful. His torn wings dragged lightly across the metal floor. He looked weak, but his eyes burned brighter than before. A faint pulse of fire ran along his spine every few seconds, like something deep within him was waking up. Eli stopped for a moment to catch his breath. "We need to reach the lower docks before dawn," he said. "There's an old cargo shuttle I can access through the maintenance route." "It should still fly," Ignis gave a quiet rumble. "You think machines that old will obey you?" Eli smiled slightly. "Machines remember humans better than people do." The dragon tilted his head, amused. "Then let us hope memory is kind tonight." They reached the old maintenance bay, a massive chamber filled with dust, old tools and the skeletons of forgotten ships. The smell of oil hung heavy in the air. In the far corner stood a small ship, its metal body covered in rust and grime. Eli hurried to the control panel, brushing away cobwebs. "She's ancient," he muttered, "but she'll fly." Ignis watched as Eli worked, tapping commands and rerouting power lines. Sparks flickered, engines coughed, and the lights dimmed. The ship's old systems began to hum, but before Eli could breathe in relief, his datapad started to beep rapidly. "What now?" he groaned. The screen flashed with words that shouldn't have been there. "Signal received. Source. Ember satellite grid." Ignis stepped closer, his voice suddenly sharp. "Read it." Eli's fingers trembled as he opened the file. The data unfolded into a pattern, a pulse of sound. Repeated across frequencies, it was a heartbeat, slow and deep. "Echoing from the edge of known space. Is it calling you?" Eli asked, his voice barely above a whisper. Ignis closed his eyes, the faint glow under his scales growing stronger. "Yes," he said, "it is the Ember network. The ancient chain that connected us. It hears me now." The ground shook slightly as a low hum spread through the tunnels. The air shimmered with unseen heat. Eli felt it in his bones, like something vast and powerful was waking. "How many were there? Dragons like you?" Ignis opened his eyes. "7, he said. "I was the first, the prime. The others followed after, each stronger, wiser, and more dangerous." Eli's heart skipped. "Are they alive?" The dragon looked away, his voice soft. "If the signal still travels, then perhaps they are, but if they wake, the galaxy will burn again." Before Eli could respond, the air filled with a sharp metallic whine. Drones. The council had tracked them. Bright lights cut through the tunnel entrance. Voices shouted orders. "Unauthorized humans, stand down." One voice called, "Turn over the creature." Eli ducked behind the ship, his pulse racing. "We're out of time," he hissed. Ignis stepped forward, his claws sparking as they scraped the ground. His voice was calm. "I will hold them." Eli shook his head. "You're not strong enough yet." Ignis's eyes burned brighter. Fire is never weak, only sleeping. The drones entered the bay, forming a wall of blue light, weapons charged and aimed. "Target locked," one drone announced. Then the air roared. Ignis spread his wings wide for the first time in centuries. Blue plasma fire burst from his mouth, rolling across the tunnel like a storm. The drones disintegrated, metal melting into liquid silver. The shockwave sent Eli tumbling backward. The heat faded as quickly as it came. Ignis collapsed to his knees, smoke rising from his scales. Eli crawled toward him, coughing. "You'll burn yourself out," he said. The dragon smiled weakly. "A fire that fears burning is no fire at all." Eli's hands shook as he helped the dragon toward the ship. "Then let's make that fire count." The engines of the old shuttle came to life with a loud rumble. Dust fell from the ceiling as the floor vibrated. The ship rose slowly, creaking under its own age. Outside, alarms blared again. Dozens of council ships took off from the upper docks. Searching for the escaping signal, Eli locked the navigation to the moon Varos. "Hold on," he said, gripping the controls. "This might be rough." Ignis curled himself in the back compartment. His glow faint but steady. His voice came soft. "You remind me of my first pilot." She laughed the same way. Even when the world was ending, Eli smiled faintly. "Then I'll take that as a compliment." The shuttle broke through the red clouds, engines straining. The sky flashed with streaks of light as council fighters followed. "They're locking onto us," Eli shouted. Ignis opened one eye. "Then perhaps it's time they learned to fear again." The collar around his neck pulsed, and blue fire streamed out through the cracks in his scales. The ship's hull began to glow from the heat. Eli's system screamed with warnings, "You're going to melt us!" But Ignis didn't answer. He raised his head and roared. The sound tore through space like thunder. The pursuing ships froze mid-flight, their systems flickering one by one. They spiraled out of control. When the silence returned, only stars surrounded them. Eli gasped for breath. "You just disabled them?" Ignis gave a low hum. "Not destroyed, just reminded. Humans built me to protect, not to kill." Eli stared at him with new respect. "Then let's protect your secret a little longer." As they drifted past the last orbit of Nivora, Eli looked out the window. "We did it," he said. "Varos is 2 hours away." Ignis's gaze turned distant. "Something else has awakened," he murmured. Eli frowned. "What do you mean?" "The signal," Ignis said. "It does not only call to me, it calls to everything that remembers the Ember. Machines, satellites, even the old ships. They're all waking." Eli stared out at the stars, where faint blue lights blinked across the void, like eyes opening in the dark. Far away on a forgotten world, a giant metal structure stirred beneath the sand. Its surface glowed with the same pattern as Ignis's collar. A mechanical voice whispered into the void. "Ignis Prime, signal confirmed. The first fire returns." Eli looked at the dragon. "So what now?" Ignis lifted his head slowly, his voice quiet but filled with power. "Now, human Barber, we find out why the fire was never meant to die." The ship moved through the stars, leaving behind the burning city and flying toward the dead moon that hid the truth of humankind's greatest secret. And behind them, in the shadows of space, something vast began to move, following the call of the Ember. The red planet was far behind them now, lost in the haze of dust and fire. Eli Ward sat at the cockpit controls of the old cargo shuttle, watching the stars slide slowly past the cracked window. The silence of space was heavy, peaceful, and yet it carried a strange weight, a whisper that something unseen was following. Ignis Prime rested in the back cabin, his body curled into a tight circle. His breathing was steady, faint waves of blue light pulsing from under his scales. He looked small again, like the tired, harmless creature Eli had first met, but Eli knew better now. He knew what slept inside that body, something ancient, something powerful, something every species in the galaxy feared. Eli leaned back, rubbing his eyes. "We're halfway to Varos," he murmured. 2 more hours if the engines hold." Ignis's eyes opened slowly. "They will not," he said quietly. Eli frowned. "What do you mean?" The dragon lifted his head, the light in his throat flickering like fading embers. "They are coming." Eli turned to the radar. At first, he saw nothing. Then faint red dots began to appear at the edge of the screen. "Multiplying fast, council hunters," he muttered. "They must have followed our heat trail." Ignis's eyes narrowed. "They will not stop. They fear the return of the Fireborn, and they will destroy anything connected to it." Eli bit his lip, thinking, the ship's shields are too weak for a fight. We can't outgun them, but maybe we can outthink them. He flipped open a hidden panel under the control board, an old smuggler's upgrade. Half legal, half genius. "A mirror field generator," he said with a grin. "It bends light, makes us invisible for a few minutes." Ignis tilted his head. "A trick of light, clever but dangerous." "Everything's dangerous now," Eli replied. Pressing the switch, the cabin lights flickered, and the stars around them blurred. The ship vanished from scanners, drifting like a ghost through the void. But the hunter ships were fast. 6 sleek silver vessels spread out across space, scanning, searching. One of them sent a coded message. "Target detected. Residual plasma traces match ancient human signature. Eli cursed under his breath. They can still smell you through the radiation. Ignis chuckled softly. Even the smallest flame leaves scent. Eli's mind raced. He needed to buy time until the mirror field cooled down. All right, he whispered. Let's give them a haircut they won't forget. He rerouted power from the navigation thrusters and ignited the spare fuel tank, sending a burst of energy behind them. The explosion scattered fragments into space. Hot, burning pieces that confused the scanners. The hunters changed course, chasing the decoy. Eli exhaled. That should keep them busy for a while. Ignis watched the fading flames, his voice deep. You think like a soldier. I'm a barber, Eli said, smiling faintly. We just know how to cut things clean. For a short while, silence returned. Only the hum of the ship filled the air. Eli turned toward Ignis. You said the council fears the Fireborn, but why? The war ended centuries ago. Ignis looked out the window, his eyes reflecting the stars. Fear does not end with war, human. When the fighting stopped, the council saw what humans had created. Life that could burn worlds. Minds that could command stars. They decided no one should hold such power again. So they erased you, Eli said quietly. Ignis nodded. They erased everything, the records, the blueprints, even the songs humans wrote about us. They wanted peace, but peace built on fear cannot last. Eli stared at him. And what about you? Did you ever hate them? The dragon's voice grew soft. I was made to protect, not to hate. But even fire grows lonely when it has no purpose. Eli didn't reply. He understood that feeling too well. He had left Earth to escape a life that felt empty. Now, in the middle of nowhere, sitting beside a forgotten dragon, he finally felt something that mattered. The radar beeped again, sharper this time. Eli leaned forward. No, he whispered. The dots were back, and more of them, 10 ships now. Surrounding from every direction, Ignis rose slowly, his wings brushing against the metal ceiling. They have found us. Eli's voice trembled. They must have detected the ember signal again. Ignis's collar glowed brighter, the hum vibrating through the floor. The signal spreads through all human relics. The council will never stop chasing it. Then we fight, Eli said. Grabbing the ship's controls, Ignis's eyes burned like twin suns. Then we burn. The hunters opened fire first. Streams of blue plasma tore through space. Eli swerved hard, alarms screaming. The old shuttle shook violently. Panels sparking. I can't keep this up, Eli shouted. Ignis moved forward, pressing his claws against the window. The collar pulsed faster. Then I will shield us. Wait, if you... But before Eli could stop him, Ignis's wings unfolded fully for the first time since awakening. Blue light exploded outward, wrapping around the ship like a living shield. The energy shimmered, deflecting the council's attacks. The hunters increased fire, but the dragon's light only grew stronger. Sparks flew as the air inside the cabin heated. Eli? Ignis said, his voice echoing with deep vibration. You must trust me. The fire is not my curse, and it is my memory. Eli stared at him, realizing what he meant. You're not just defending us. You're remembering. Ignis nodded slowly. Every flame has a story. Then the dragon roared. The sound wasn't just heard, it was felt. The entire ship shook. The blue shield burst outward like a wave, knocking the enemy ships off course. Their engines shut down instantly, sensors blinded in seconds. The space around them went dark again. Only silence remaining. Ignis slumped to the floor, smoke rising from his wings. It is done, he whispered. Eli rushed to him. You saved us. Ignis's voice was faint. No, human. I reminded the stars of what they forgot. Hours later, as the damaged shuttle drifted toward the dead moon Varos, Eli finally saw it, a gray sphere hanging in the black, its surface covered in scars of old war. There it is, he said softly. The archive. Ignis's eyes opened halfway. Be careful. The dead moons of humans never stay quiet. Eli looked at him. We'll find the truth there, I promise. The dragon gave a tired smile. Truth is like fire. It gives light, but it burns. As the ship descended toward the silent surface, faint blue lights began to flicker across the craters, one after another forming ancient human symbols. Ignis turned his head slowly, watching. They are waiting, he said. The old machines, the ones who still remember the Fireborn. Eli gripped the controls tighter. Then let's go wake them up. Above them, Far in the distance, the council fleet regrouped. Stronger and angrier, the hunt was not over, it had just begun. And deep beneath the moon's surface, something ancient stirred. A heartbeat that had not been heard for hundreds of years, pulsing in rhythm with the dragon's own. Project Ember was no longer forgotten, it was alive. The moon of Varos hung in the black like a ghost, its surface gray and cracked, marked by ancient scars from forgotten wars. There was no wind, no sound, only the cold silence of time. The old human archive lay beneath that silence, a buried city of machines, sealed by those who once called themselves gods of creation. Eli Ward guided the broken shuttle down through thin clouds of dust. The ship rattled, one engine flickering weakly. Sparks danced across the dashboard. "Hold together, old girl," he whispered, gripping the controls, just a little longer. Ignis Prime sat behind him, wings folded tight. His eyes glowed dim blue. The dragon's body was weak after the last battle, but his voice was steady. "You fly well for someone who claims to cut hair," Eli smiled faintly. "Barbers need steady hands, don't they?" The ship touched down with a hard thud, sending a cloud of silver-gray dust into the air. For a long moment, neither of them spoke. The silence felt too large, too empty. Ignis turned his head toward the horizon. "This world smells of ash and memory," he murmured. "I remember this place," Eli blinked. "You've been here before?" The dragon nodded slowly. "Once, long ago, when humans still built with fire and faith. Varos was their vault, where they stored everything too dangerous to destroy, too sacred to forget." Eli unbuckled and stood, checking the scanner on his wrist. "The signal's strong here," he said. "There's a structure about 2 kilometers east, deep underground." Ignis lowered his wings and began to move, his claws leaving glowing prints in the dust. "Then we walk." The two made their way across the dead plain. The stars above were sharp and cold. Every step echoed, like the moon itself was listening. After a while, Eli asked, "Why would humans lock away their own creations instead of protecting them?" Ignis's voice was quiet. "Because power frightens even its maker. The Fireborn were proof that humans could rival gods. They loved us once until they realized we could think, choose and dream." He looked up at the stars, his eyes reflecting their pale light. "They feared the day we might stop obeying." Eli didn't reply. He had seen that same fear in his own people, the fear of losing control, of creating something smarter, stronger, and freer than themselves. Soon they reached a deep crater. Inside it stood a massive door carved into the rock. The surface was smooth metal, black as glass, and covered in faint symbols that shimmered when Ignis came close. Eli brushed the dust away, revealing a circular logo, a human emblem, faded but still recognizable. "Project Ember, Archive Vault 01, Eli's heart skipped. "We found it," Ignis stepped closer, his voice low. "The Forge remembers its children." The door hummed softly. Reacting to his presence, the symbols flared brighter, forming lines of glowing code that spiraled outward. Eli stepped back, watching in awe. "It's unlocking itself." "No," Ignis said quietly. "It's recognizing me." With a deep groan, the door slid open, revealing a vast chamber filled with darkness and light. Rows of sleeping machines lined the walls, their cores faintly glowing with blue fire. Eli's breath caught. This is human technology." Ignis moved forward slowly, his claws echoing on the metal floor. "This is more than that," he said. "This is where I was made." As they walked deeper, faint holograms flickered to life along the walls, images of humans in white suits, smiling, working, recording messages. One of the projections stabilized, showing a woman with gray hair and bright eyes. Her voice was soft but filled with pride. "This is Dr. Sarah Cade, final entry of Project Ember. The dragons have been sealed. Ignis Prime will remain under lock until humanity learns again to hold fire without burning the world." Eli stared at the hologram, his throat dry. "She was your creator," he whispered. Ignis nodded, his gaze locked on her face. "She called me her masterpiece, her mistake. And her child." The hologram flickered again, her voice fading. "If anyone finds this message, know that the first fire was not meant for destruction. It was made to protect humanity from what is coming. The Void Spawn are not gone. They are waiting in the dark between stars." Eli's heart stopped. "The Void Spawn," she said. "They're still alive." Ignis's wings unfolded slowly, his light growing brighter. Then the war never ended. The air trembled slightly. Dust fell from the ceiling as the machines began to hum louder. The entire vault came alive. Eli grabbed his scanner. Something's happening. There's power returning all over the complex. Ignis closed his eyes, his voice almost reverent. They are waking. The other Fireborn, Eli looked around, panic rising. But they're gone, aren't they? The dragon shook his head. Perhaps their bodies are, but their minds, they live in the code. Suddenly the walls around them lit up with streams of blue energy, forming 7 circles of light, each one bearing a name. Ignis Prime, Vera, Solan, Arctis, Nimera, Kael, Dravos. Only one circle burned fully, Ignis Prime. The others flickered weakly. Like distant heartbeats, Eli stared in awe. These are their consciousness cores, Ignis nodded slowly. Their flames may yet return. But the moment of wonder ended quickly. The ground shook, alarms blared, and a cold synthetic voice echoed through the vault. Unauthorized access detected. Purge sequence initiated. Eli's eyes widened. Oh no! They left defenses. Mechanical hatches opened across the ceiling. Drones, sleek and black, dropped down in swarms. Their red eyes glowing, Ignis growled. They built guardians to protect what they feared most. Eli ducked behind a console. Can you fight them? The dragon spread his wings, blue fire sparking along the edges. I was born for this. The drones opened fire, beams of red plasma slicing through the air. Ignis roared, unleashing a wave of blue heat that melted the nearest machines into molten metal. Sparks showered the room. Eli ran from cover to cover, trying to find the control terminal. His fingers flew over the keys, searching for an override. Come on, he muttered. There. He hit a command and half the drones froze mid-air. Shutting down instantly, Ignis finished the rest with a sweep of fire. The vault fell silent again, the air thick with smoke and heat. Eli panted, wiping sweat from his forehead. You're unbelievable. Ignis looked around, his gaze soft. No human. I am a reminder, Eli frowned. Of what? The dragon turned toward the glowing circles of the Fireborn. That power without purpose burns everything it touches. As the last flames faded, a hidden door opened at the end of the chamber. A faint light glowed beyond it, pulsing like a heartbeat. Eli and Ignis exchanged a glance. The core chamber, the dragon said quietly. They stepped through. The walls here were smoother, cleaner, untouched by time. At the center floated a sphere of pure energy, burning softly with golden fire. Ignis lowered his head, reverent. The ember heart, he whispered. The source of all Fireborn life. Eli stared, unable to speak. It's beautiful? Ignis's voice was filled with sorrow and awe. It remembers us all, every battle, every flame, every loss. The sphere pulsed brighter, casting their shadows across the room. Eli felt something stir deep within him. A connection, a warmth, a heartbeat that wasn't his. Ignis turned to him slowly, his voice quiet but certain. It knows you, Eli. It remembers your kind. You may be the last human to touch its light. Eli took a slow step forward, his hand trembling. Then let's make it remember why humans made fire in the first place. As his fingers touched the light, the ember heart flared, and far across the galaxy, old satellites, ships, and machines began to awaken. One by one, their blue lights burned gold. Something ancient had reawakened, and every star could feel it. The dead moon was no longer dead, it was breathing again. The chamber trembled as if the heart of the moon had begun to beat again. Golden light spilled across the metal walls, rising and falling like waves of a living ocean. Eli Ward stood at the center, his hand still touching the ember heart. His skin glowed faintly, his heartbeat syncing with the rhythm of the ancient core. Ignis Prime stood behind him, eyes burning with wonder and fear. It's waking, he whispered. The ember remembers. Eli turned slowly, his voice low and shaking. It's not just a machine, Ignis. It feels alive. The dragon stepped closer, the golden light reflecting in his scales. It is alive, he said softly. The ember heart holds the soul of every Fireborn ever created. We were built from its flame. As he spoke, the entire vault lit up. The other 6 circles of light that had once flickered weakly now burned brighter. The names on the walls, Vera, Solan, Arctis, Nimera, Kael, Dravos, pulsed in unison. Eli's eyes widened. They're coming back. Ignis's wings trembled. Their minds are calling across the void. The ember heart is answering them. But before he could say more, the ground shook violently. A blinding red beam tore through the ceiling. Metal screamed as it melted away. Eli shielded his face. They found us. Ignis turned toward the breach, his eyes narrowing. "The Council," he growled. Through the crack in the ceiling descended massive black ships. The Council's war carriers, built to hunt and erase forbidden technology. Their voices echoed through the chamber. "This is the Galactic Council Enforcement Fleet. You are in violation of Interstellar Peace Code 090. Surrender the relic and the creature immediately." Eli looked up at the ships, his jaw tightening. "They're going to destroy everything." Ignis spread his wings wide, blue and gold flames rising along the edges. "They cannot destroy what they never understood." But the Council ships opened fire before he could move. Beams of plasma ripped through the walls. Tearing apart ancient machines, the Ember Heart flickered, crying out with a sound that wasn't sound at all. It was a pulse that hit every mind. Eli felt his vision blur. The room twisted, and for a moment, he saw flashes. Visions of ancient humans forging dragons from light, of stars burning, of fire protecting entire worlds. He saw Dr. Sarah Cade smiling proudly and saying, "Protect them, Ignis." Then the vision vanished. Replaced by chaos, Ignis roared, unleashing a wave of golden-blue fire that blocked the next blast. The entire moon shook, dust raining down from the ceiling. "Eli, you must leave," he shouted. Eli grabbed the console, shaking his head. "No, we can still stop them. If I can reroute the Ember's output, it might create a shield around the core." Ignis looked at him, both proud and desperate. "You speak like a maker." Eli worked fast, his fingers flying over the ancient keys. The symbols glowed beneath his touch, recognizing his human DNA. The console responded. The Ember Heart brightened, releasing waves of light that spread like petals through the air. For a brief moment, the Council's attack halted. The plasma beams dissolved into golden mist. One of the Council commanders appeared on a holographic feed, his gray face filled with fury. "Human! You are tampering with a weapon that ended worlds." Eli glared back. "It wasn't a weapon, it was protection, and you buried it because you were afraid." The commander's voice turned cold. "Fear kept the stars alive." Ignis's growl filled the chamber. "Fear is not life." The Council ship charged its main cannon. The air vibrated with rising energy. Ignis turned toward the Ember Heart. "It will destroy us all." Eli clenched his jaw. "Then let's give them something worth fearing." Ignis stepped into the light of the Ember Heart. His body shone brighter with every step. The golden fire crawled over his scales. Weaving patterns like ancient runes, his torn wings began to heal. Stretching to their true size, Eli's voice trembled. "Ignis, what are you doing?" The dragon smiled, gentle and full of warmth. "Becoming what I was meant to be." The Ember Heart pulsed faster, feeding into him. The walls shook, the temperature rose. The other 6 names on the wall flared one last time before fading into the core. Their essence flowed into Ignis, their voices whispering through his mind. "You are the last fire." Prime, Eli watched, eyes wide. "Ignis, you can't..." The dragon looked down at him. "Every fire must have a keeper. You were that for me, human. Now I will be that for you." Before Eli could protest, the Ember Heart exploded in light. The golden fire poured into Ignis. Surrounding him in a storm of energy, his form grew. Wings spanning wide enough to fill the chamber. Scales burning like living suns, his roar shook the vault, echoing through the moon and into the void beyond. The Council ships fired again, but their beams evaporated before touching him. Ignis's wings unfolded fully, and for a moment, he looked like a star given life. "Eli!" His voice thundered. "Run!" Eli shook his head. "I won't leave you." Ignis's eyes softened. "You already gave me freedom." "That is enough." He raised his head toward the ceiling, and in a single movement burst through it. The moon's crust shattered as he ascended into the sky. Trailing fire like a comet, the Council fleet surrounded him, hundreds of ships locking weapons. Ignis spoke not with words but with light. His fire spread across the void, forming a massive ring of energy that expanded outward. Every ship caught within it froze, systems going dark. The commanders watched in horror as their weapons melted into nothing. "I do not bring war." Ignis's voice echoed across every communication channel. "I bring memory." He spread his wings wider, and a pulse of golden light shot across the galaxy. It touched worlds, satellites, even the farthest outposts. Every being who saw it felt warmth in their hearts, a feeling of courage, of hope, of what it once meant to be human on the moon's surface. Eli shielded his eyes from the blinding glow. He whispered, "Ignis, Then, as the light faded, silence returned. When Eli opened his eyes again, the sky above Varos was calm. The council ships drifted powerless. The moon's surface was cracked but stable. In the distance, something small moved through the dust. A shadow with wings glowing faintly. Eli ran toward it, tears in his eyes. Ignis. The dragon lay curled among the rocks, small again, his scales dim but warm. He opened one eye and smiled. Still alive, he murmured. Eli knelt beside him, laughing and crying at once. You saved them all? Ignis exhaled softly. No, Eli, we saved them. Fire alone destroys, but with a human heart, it can heal. The two sat there in silence, watching the sunrise over the dead moon. For the first time in centuries, light touched Varos again. Above them, in the vast emptiness of space, the golden ring of fire still shimmered faintly. A memory, a promise, a warning. And somewhere deep within the void, far beyond the stars, a faint voice whispered back through the flames. The fire sleeps, but it will never die. The galaxy had seen the last fire, and it would remember forever